Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we fall asleep to stories slower than time itself. Somewhere outside the gates before the crowd, a disciple wakes. The ground is cool, pebbles pressed into my palm where I slept. Morning does not hurry here. Birds rustle without singing, and the olive branches above hold the last shade of night. My eyes open slow, like the dawn learning its lines. Someone walks the narrow path, soft sandals brushing dust, but I stay still. No need to greet the day too fast. Everything worth meeting will come quietly anyway. I sit up, pressing folds from my robe, barely remembering the dream that carried me. Dawn in these hills never feels like beginning, only continuing. My hand reaches for a smooth stone, thumb tracing grooves I didn't make. The olive trees keep watch, their silence deeper than prayer. I listen to the easy breathing of the trees. It sounds almost like rest, and maybe it is. Some days I wonder if the branches dream too, bending toward a world even slower than ours. Their shadows touch my shoulder, gentle as a blessing. Nearby, someone tends a little fire. The wood hisses, sending up a single twist of smoke. Bread warms on a flat stone. No one speaks, but we know what's coming. The first meal, the first quiet, the hush before footsteps fill the day. Let this moment stretch. Even the silence here feels like a cradle. Now the sun spills itself between the leaves. I hold my knees to my chest, chin resting there, not needing answers, not rushing even questions. For a while, the only thing to do is listen to the river of stillness. A neighbor gathers a basket of figs nearby, humming without tune. We exchange a nod, nothing more. It is enough to know we are both here. The world is built from such gentle agreements. I close my eyes again, just for a breath. Soft olive scent drifts in on the wind, quiet as mercy. Far off, another voice calls, but not to me. Not this time. I think of the old stories told beneath these same branches, mothers and daughters passing wisdom like lentils between hands. Deborah, they say, judged under a palm tree not far from here, where people came not for thunder but for peace. Here, too, judgment is stillness. Under every branch, a kind of listening, patient, believing, soft as moss on rock. You don't need to stay awake for the story, it will stay awake for you. It's quiet before morning, just barely lighter than sleep. My hands are open on the blanket, the edges cold, the rest of me warm with the memory of dreams. I listen to the air, to space that's neither night nor day, still safe, still secret. Even the olive trees seem to whisper old prayers, their leaves turning slow in dawn's first gentleness. From my place on the mat, I can see the low roof beams, where dust drifts, undisturbed except by a sparrow picking crumbs someone forgot. Bread from yesterday, always a little left over, always enough. I think of Deborah's hill, somewhere beyond sight, the sound of her voice rising early, softer than thunder. Someone says she judges under a palm tree. Maybe she's awake already, or maybe she waits too. There is room for both. I let the dream slip back like water in a jar. No one asks me about my dreams. I don't ask them to listen. The dawn does not demand a story. Even now the house breathes. A cow stirs. Water settles in the pitcher. The smallest things make the largest hush. Let this moment stretch, like the morning itself. Mother hums in the kitchen, voice wrapped around nothing urgent, just the song she sings to bread as it rises. I close my eyes again, not quite ready to move. There is time enough for lifting, for carrying, no need to hurry. The figs will ripen without me watching. Today will unfold, soft and unchanged, whether or not I rush to greet it. Is this how God wakes, I wonder? Not all at once, but like the light, gently, where the walls meet the floor, easing into my hands, letting me feel the day before I do anything at all. I slip my cloak around my shoulders, legs still asleep. The door's wood is cool, holding last night's darkness just a little longer. Even this silence is holy. The path is dust and memory. No one else is up yet, except an old woman drawing water from the well in her slow, round way. She nods without words as if to say, "We see each other." The world isn't awake yet. We keep it safe a little longer with our quiet. If I had something important to think, it would have to wait. In these minutes I am more breath than thought, more waiting than willing. Sand shifts under my feet. The sun is gentle as a mother's touch, never in a hurry. Let this morning linger for those who need it. The night listens with you by the time I pass beneath Deborah's palm. The shadow reaches for a blessing I cannot hear. No one notices the prayer, but it is heard. Sometimes waking is just remembering I'm held by the day, by God, by the water in my hands. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The lane is empty except for the cool promise of the day. The bread will be ready. The sheep will need feeding. The world goes on slower than dreams, softer than worry. Let this be enough. Not every morning wants a miracle. Some are just for being here, for standing still with open eyes and empty hands. Even this God fills. Before first light I move quietly. The floor is cold. My fingers rub sleep from my eyes. The sound of morning is loose, just the steady breath of someone else on a woven mat, the distant cough of a goat, hush becoming day. Water waits in the jar, grain on the shelf. I do not hurry. My mind is soft as dough left alone. The sun hasn't shown its face yet. There's no rush to stir the fire, but my hands know what to do. I gather flour and let it sift. A small cloud drifts, settles on my skin. I hear the tiny sound when a single pebble falls into the wooden bowl. There is time, more than anyone counts. No one expects bread quickly. No one is waiting with demands in their eyes. Let this moment stretch. I pour water slow and watch it find its way through the mound. My fingers slip in, turning the dry into wet, and for a while there is no thought, just movement. The dough resists, then yields, then folds into itself like a promise kept safe. I do not need to speak. No blessing is spoken over it, but I sense one. Today will be quiet. It has the feel of a narrow lane where sunlight takes its time. I knead. The dough breathes under my palms. Outside, a bird calls once, then holds its tongue. A bowl of oil nearby glimmers in the small dark of morning, just enough to keep things from sticking. Even this silence is holy. Sometimes I think of the others, women gathered beneath the old palm tree just beyond the main road. They come to settle their worries, bringing questions too tangled for quick answers. They speak softly beneath its shade. I have never been bold enough to join them, but I pass close now and again, careful not to disturb. Even from across the street, the hush beneath that tree feels gentle. Someone always sits and listens there. I imagine her, quiet, hands folded, ready for slow words. She does not judge. She listens. That grace runs through the market, through the streets. You can feel it drift, easy as heat over stones. I tuck a cloth over the bowl while I wait. The dough rests. I sweep stray flecks from the table. My days are measured in small rhythms. The dip of the jug, grain beneath my nails, the smell of dust and husks. I check the dough and find softness. Air has moved inside, lifting like breath at a window. The surface is changed, though little seems different. It is enough. Let the little things linger. I break off pieces, press them into my palm, flatten and shape them until they look like moons. No one expects them to be even. They will come out strange, edges rough, middles thin. I set each one on cloth. I spread oil on the pan, watch it shine for just a moment. The fire sighs beneath as bread meets heat. A sizzle, the first scent of baking. The smell nestles into everything. Soon, it will drift into corners and onto sleeping blankets. Nothing happens quickly. I lift an edge and see gold. That is enough. No need for perfect. This bread will be torn to pieces, passed from hand to hand. By evening, nothing left but a memory. Still, it matters. Even things that disappear have their hour. The night listens with you. I lean against the wall, letting my shoulders fall, watching the slow turn of the dough as it rises, browns, gives in to the heat. A shadow from an olive branch finds my foot. Sometimes the day feels exactly like this, quiet, changing slowly, small grace folded in the waiting. Down the road, someone calls out a greeting. The sound travels as far as it needs to, then lets go. I set aside the finished bread. My hands know the story of the morning. There was nothing asked of me but to tend to what I was given. I still feel full. There is nothing to understand. My body moves, sweeping the crumbs, stacking the baked moons, wiping oil from the table. I hear nothing but the sweep of my own hands. It is enough. Let yourself drift, the others wake. The house stirs. Someone laughs in another room. My work sits quietly on a cloth, warm. I carry it outside and let the early sun touch it. A breeze lifts the edge. I breathe, counting nothing, asking for nothing. It is a morning like any other. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. I rest for a moment in the quiet, bread in my lap, body still. There are footsteps nearby, but they feel far away. I watch the shadow of the palm sway on the road, thinking of those who gather there. I wonder what they carry in their hands, what grace they find as they talk or simply sit in silence. Somewhere someone is listening. Maybe that's enough. Maybe the bread is a kind of answer to a question too simple to speak. There is no hurry to finish, no one urging me on. The day moves at its own quiet pace. The world holds still. It started with the soft sound of sandals on packed earth. There was no rush, just a gentle exit from the shaded doorway. One bare foot paused on the warm stone, then the next. The sky felt wide and blue, like it had all the time in the world to become morning. Someone yawned in the next room. Not even the goats had begun their muttering. Across the hush, a jug waited to be filled, and flatbread, wrapped in a cloth, cooled against the table's edge. The world held its breath, before the clatter of pots or the calls for help with water. Even the smallest chores felt like slow breathing. He stepped into the yard. Dew still clung to the grass. The gate made its usual sigh, neither happy nor sorry to see the day begin. He felt the steadiness of his steps, one after another, down the narrow path behind the house, letting the morning stretch unhurried. Sometimes he would talk to himself quietly while he walked. Not prayers, not really, not even hope, just words that filled the space inside his head. Today he let silence travel beside him. The earth underneath was uneven in places, bits of pebble, soft dust, the edge of a single root. Each step had its own small sound. He looked ahead, blinking at how the sun slid past thin clouds. A gentle warmth began to nudge his shoulders. He gathered the loose fabric of his robe in his hand so it wouldn't drag as he walked. There was no urgency on this side of the morning. Past the first neighbor's garden, where squash leaves tangled in the shadows, he nodded, though no one stood to see him. He was never the first up, but he liked to walk as if he was. Birds chirped without seeking an answer. Even a ladder, leaning against the stone wall, seemed to be resting before the day's work would begin. He slowed, letting his feet notice every small change beneath them, damp to dry, smooth to rough, pebble to dust. These were things no one asked about, not even the old women who sat knitting by the market. He liked to listen for what the ground remembered, echoes of sandals, of sheep, even of the child who'd once lost a tiny bead in the mud. The earth did not mind being walked on. It just kept holding every step. He carried a basket but did not know yet what it would bring home. Sometimes figs, sometimes nothing at all. The path led to the tree, a fig tree, always there, steady, with branches spilling into the road as if to brush the shoulders of anyone passing. The walk to the tree took longer if you let it, and he often did. Let this moment stretch. No one needed to hurry. He let air fill his lungs, slow as old honey trickles. In the field someone called a name, not his, not this time. He listened anyway. The day could come as slow as it wanted. Past the rough stone, a blue ribbon caught on a weed, forgotten by some laughing girl days before. He touched it gently and left it hanging. The wind would take it someday, but today the ribbon stayed. Even the smallest things waited, listening. The world felt wide, even here between well and tree, toe and ankle. He dared to close his eyes for 3 steps, just 3, and trust that nothing terrible would come. When he opened them again, the shade of the fig tree swept over his shoulders like a soft cloak. Cooler underneath, quiet except for 2 doves making a low sound, hardly a song. He did not pray out loud. Someone else did that somewhere up the road. He watched his hands, traced the lines in his palm, remembered how last spring the tree had almost died. No one said it was a miracle when new leaves came. No one pointed or told a story. Things grew or did not. Bread rose or fell. People left and sometimes came home again. He looked at the trunk, old and scarred. The bark peeled where the sun lingered. A beetle climbed in a spiral, pausing where the shadow thickened. He watched it work, thinking, nothing hurries the beetle, and yet everything gets done. Even this silence is holy. A woman leading a donkey passed him without a word. He nodded and she smiled, not at him but at the day. No one spoke. They each had their own quiet to keep. He picked up a fallen fig, pressed his thumb to its skin. It gave just a little, soft like a secret. He set it down again, not hungry, not wanting more. He listened to the tree's leaves moving, soft as breath, as though the tree whispered to the ground and the ground listened back. He wondered if this was what Deborah felt long ago, sitting beneath her own tree, listening, noticing, not needing to speak for anyone to be heard. This was enough. Sometimes the walk itself was the answer. Let the day take a long breath. The road back would wait. Nothing called him home, but he would go eventually. He traced his finger along the rough bark, then let his hand fall. The sun moved on little by little. With each breath, the world seemed to promise a little more time, a little more softness. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The village would wake behind him. Chores would wait. Water needed carrying, bread needed baking. But for now he stood with the tree, listening to the quiet, letting it settle into his bones. He watched a shadow cross the dirt, slow and weightless. The night listens with you somewhere. A prayer was being whispered, not for him, not that he could hear. But the prayer was real and it was heard. And so he stayed, letting the earth hold his feet, letting the day open as slowly as a child's hand. There was time, there was stillness. The world was not in a hurry, and God, maybe, walked just as slowly, letting the earth speak beneath the shade of an old fig tree. The morning was warm, gentler than yesterday. My hands found the hem of my tunic, smoothing a wrinkle that no one else would see, sitting on a low stone near the path. I pressed my sandals back onto tired feet. The cool shade of the fig tree spilled across the ground, mottled and quiet. Someone's laughter drifted over the hillside. I think it was one of Deborah's helpers, but there was no hurry in it. Just a sound carried by the wind. A few dry leaves rattled above me. I watched a pale lizard settle in the sun, then vanish just as softly. Bread cooling on a cloth beside me filled the air with a dull sweetness. There were voices, too far to understand, coming from beneath the palm tree up the hill. Deborah was there, always there, but I never needed to know what she said. Wisdom happened, whether anyone saw it or not. I slid my hand through the soft dust and left a crooked mark, then pulled my knees to my chest. Nothing asked to be understood and nothing pressed for answers. My head felt light, like water settling. Let this moment stretch like a slow shadow on the fields. No one rushed past, only the green fruit overhead waiting for its own time. I watched my shadow, saw it reach out and slip back as the sun drifted behind a cloud. There was no lesson in it. The world breathed with me. A speck of flour clung to my finger. When I brushed it away, the skin felt softer where the flour had been. Someone arrived with a cracked jug, leaning against the tree trunk. She didn't look at Deborah. She just sighed, letting her face tilt towards the branches. I thought maybe we were both waiting for something, but it wasn't for words. It was just for the heat to fade or the day to slow. The little gray birds sang from time to time, never all at once. Even this silence is holy. The bread cooled more. I tore a piece, small and dry, pressed between my teeth and tongue. No one asked for a taste, but I would have shared if they had. My feet found the cool places, shifting whenever the sunlight crept close. Dusk gathered in the creases of my hands. I turned my eyes to the blue hills where goats traced narrow paths, one after the other, heads down. No one called out. The day was wide and there was room for every quiet thing. The shadows grew longer. The woman left her jug by the roots of the tree, walked quietly away. I wondered if wisdom had happened, something much too soft for me to notice. But the breeze felt gentle on my cheek, and I let my thoughts drift to nothing at all. The night listens with you. You can close your eyes if you want. The world will keep its watch. The smell of bread, the sound of leaves, a cool place to rest. I leaned back against the stone. Someone was speaking under the palm tree, a soft murmur joining the rest of the day. I only heard the rhythm, not the meaning, and it was enough. Here in the shade, no question needed to be answered. The quiet was its own kind of prayer, and even if no one noticed, it was heard. Most mornings I rise just after the blue breaks across the fields. The day is quiet then, before the animals stir, before my chores have shape. Air thick with coming heat, everything waiting, but not for anything special, only for the day to begin. My hands find the bread from the night before. I sweep crumbs into my palm, watching light soften the edge of our doorway. Some houses farther on, someone is singing softly to a child. The notes float and then are gone. I chew slowly, not because I'm hungry, more because there's nothing that needs hurrying. Outside, the earth is pale with dust. Each step is a soundless conversation with yesterday. I cross toward the well, the handle warm where my fingers close around it. Somewhere above, a bird drags its wings through the heavy air. Everything moves slower when it's hot. Let this moment stretch. I let the bucket sink in its own time. Water darkens the rope. My feet find the flattened grass. In the distance, Deborah's tree sits at the edge of vision. A small shape, no more special than a rock or a bush. Even from here, I know she's there. The way people's shadows pause, drifting in and out of the shade. But this is not my day to ask anything. It's just my day to bring water home. The bucket is heavier than it looks. I take wide, careful steps, feeling water slosh. A drop runs across my wrist. Something about it, the cold in the middle of heat, makes me smile. The world is full, even when it's silent. Even this silence is holy. When I pass Deborah's tree, I glance just once. There are voices half whispered, braided into the hush. I walk by, unnoticed. She doesn't lift her eyes. I wonder, does she ever tire of sitting in one patch of shade? Or does she see the whole world from her spot beneath the leaves? I think about standing still, but there's flour to sift and laundry to wring. At home, linens wait, marbled with dust, warmed by the sun through the window. My hands rinse and twist. Ragged shirts, a child's blanket, threadbare cloth that holds the shape of our days. So much of caring is just paying attention. So much of grace is slow. Let this moment breathe. Later, I pause, towel draped over my shoulder. Underfoot, the earth has baked itself into a quiet crust. A goat noses quietly near the gate. Someone farther off calls for bread. I answer, not loudly, because the morning is molten and soft. Even the heat feels patient today. I find contentment folds itself in corners, between a cup rinsed in the basin and the way my footsteps mingle with the dust. Somewhere, a child tries to catch a locust, his laughter just audible above the hum of noon. Shadows lengthen under Deborah's tree. People come, people go. I watch them through the blur of sun and task, each one hoping for something named or maybe something wordless. Between the buckets and loaves, I begin to realize not all presence is about being seen. Sometimes it's just about being here. Let the heat lift from your chest. Let the day hold you loosely. By afternoon, I sit on the threshold. Sweat draws lines down my jaw. The fields shimmer in their own kind of prayer. Deborah's voice is softer now, more wind than word. Someone leans against the tree, head bowed. I notice, and then I return to my hands. Peeling fava beans, slicing them open, slow green spilling out. The bowl fills. Time pools in it too. No one hurries. The sun hangs above everything, peerless and steady. No one noticed my prayer, but it was heard. I think of how easily the hours pass, pleated and plain. My life folded like these washcloths. the miracles never quite in my grasp but always nearby, just across the street under a different tree. He asked for nothing and still felt full. I carry my quietness into the next thing, sweeping dust from the windowsill, breathing deep, letting stillness do its work. Let even your waiting be sacred. The night listens with you. Afternoon was warm, but not in a way that asked anything of me. The light fell through the small gap in the roof and made a line on the dirt floor. My hands remembered what was needed. Nothing clever, just small chores. I gathered the baskets, empty from market, and untangled the twine. The olive jar needed dusting. Even the goats pressed into the shade seemed unbothered by time. Today my feet did not wander far. I moved slow, the way leaves shift when there is no wind. I rinsed a cloth in the wash basin, wrung it gentle, and wiped the table smooth. Bread crumbs gathered in my palm, a soft reminder that someone was fed. A friend passed by the doorway, humming a tune, the notes flat and simple. She smiled, then was gone. I folded a shawl over the stones, just in case the guest Deborah stopped again. We never hurried the afternoon. She would sit beneath the old palm, offering what she held. Everyone listened to her, not because her words were loud, but because they settled like dust on water. I was near enough to hear, never close enough to join the circle. Still, there was comfort in waiting a little distance away. It made serving easy, no need for praise, just the rhythm of chores that wait for no applause. My work is not important, but even in this I found rest. Pottery stacked, lentil pot cooled. I swept the entry clean, pausing as a shadow moved across the floor. Maybe the world changed under that palm tree. I wouldn't know. He asked for nothing and still felt full. I let the moment stretch. Afternoon breathes long and slow here. Every sound is patient. A dove shifting on the roof, someone pouring water, sandals brushing dust. No one noticed the prayer at the edge of the field, but it was heard. Sometimes, after chores, I would carry figs to the well and pass the ones with soft spots to the children. They grinned, juice sticky on their hands. I never minded the quiet. Every small task was like a smooth stone in the palm. Plain, cool, steady. Even this silence is holy. By now the sun pressed lower. I pulled a mat to the threshold, listening to the low voices near the palm. Deborah's wisdom drifted near, carried by wind or wish. I set a jug at her feet, then stepped back, my work invisible. Serving without ambition, moving without rush. The night listens with you. The hush of afternoon sat over the road, warm and steady. I set a basket of figs in the shade, the woven strands creaking just softly enough to remind me I was there. The path lay quiet except for the voices under the palm tree. I could hear nothing clear, just the rise and rest of words in the sun. Sometimes someone paused beneath that tree, not because they meant to pray, only for the stretch of cool shadow, the way dust didn't glare there. A woman in a blue wrap passed by, nodding in thanks when I offered her 2 soft peaches. Her hands were cracked from grinding flour. I handed them to her as if fruit weighed more in the afternoon and watched her walk on, not hurrying. I leaned against the wall, eyes half closed. Even the goats were quieter in this hour. Let this moment stretch. I saw neighbors waiting in the light for their turn to speak to Deborah. I watched their feet shifting, toes digging into the dirt. They spoke in low tones, not wanting to disturb the leaves above them. Nobody made a scene. No one called attention. Not even her under that tree, just a patient figure listening. I peeled a fig, juice sticky in my fingers. Small things sat wholly in silence. Two children sat cross-legged beside the baskets, knees dusty, sharing a heel of bread. They laughed about something that didn't need explaining. For a long while, we all seemed to breathe together, villagers, strangers, birds hiding in the high branches. Even this silence is holy. Occasionally, a visitor would stop, uncertain, casting their eyes down. I'd motion to an empty space beside me. They'd sit and we'd share what was in reach, sometimes a plum, sometimes a handful of nuts, sometimes only the hush between us. Nothing was expected. No one had to speak. There was something sacred in being received and just sitting. Dust rose and fell like sighs. I watched the line grow shorter beneath the tree. Nobody looked important in this light. Everyone was just a little tired, waiting for evening. Even the shadows moved slowly. The night listens with you. A breeze came, moving the palm fronds overhead. It tickled the fringe of my shawl. I offered fruit to another stranger, who smiled and held my gaze for a long, quiet second. It was enough. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Sacred welcome, hidden in plain sight. In that place under the palm, not much happened. And somehow everything did. The sun never argued as it sank behind the hills. It only drifted down, without rush or fuss, letting the village spill into a gentle hush. My feet made small sounds on the old path. Sand gritted beneath my heel, brushed away with each step like a slow, forgetful broom. The day's footprints faded in the dust, nothing urgent, nothing remembered. In the doorway, I unwrapped stray pieces of reed and a thread from my sleeve. A few neighbors murmured by the well, voices quiet and flat as linen pressed smooth with tired hands. Evening made us small, folding us together without ceremony. I set an empty bowl outside my door, not because anyone might come, but because I liked the way dusk touched its rim, cool as a hope you let go of on purpose. Shadows grew in the cracks of old stone. My hands didn't mind their work. They shaped dough, pressed it flat, pinched a corner and smoothed it again, just as I'd done each night since winter shed its frost. Let this moment stretch. Even the sparrows lowered their song tonight, tucking words beneath their wings. There was more quiet than sound, more breath than prayer. My neighbor's lamp flickered in the window. I watched her move behind the sheet she hung for privacy, gently, careful not to disturb the peace between evening and night. Taking a worn cloth, I wiped the bench beside the door. The wood knew every hour I had ever rested here. Sometimes I caught myself waiting for nothing at all. No voices, no miracle, just the worn pulse of time, soft as a heartbeat you nearly forget. The night listens with you. I brought in the washing, folding each tunic and scarf with tired, grateful fingers. There was no hurry. There never is at this hour. The air smelled like warm clay, thick with the memory of sun. The silence made space for me. I let my eyes fall half closed, just listening to the hush that settles when no one is asking, when every answer can be silent and safe. He asked for nothing and still felt full. One by one I covered the coals, pressed the flat bread in a cloth, swept one last time by the threshold. It was almost a prayer, this plain, unremarkable work. Only God could hear how sacred it was to hand each piece of the day back to silence. If there was a secret in this evening, it was how good it felt to put everything down. feet and thoughts and old cares folded up with the laundry left for morning. Even this silence is holy. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. The last light of the day slips behind the stone edge of the hills, leaving a blue hush. I sit by the coals, letting the warmth settle into my hands. A piece of old cloth rests over my knees, neatly folded, then unfolded, then folded again. Someone is sweeping the far end of the courtyard, bristles soft against dust. A clay bowl sits by my heel, steam rising from lentils, reheated for the third or fourth time. Each spoonful is quieter than the one before it. My writing board leans against the wall. Most nights I touch it, but do not write. Tonight the air feels thick unsaid. Letters drift in and out of my mind. Sometimes I think of the words others carry, spoken in the open or recited beneath breath. I hold them like pebbles, turning them quietly between my fingers, but let them rest. It's enough sometimes just to be near the word, not to shape it, not to send it out, but to hold the nearness close like something left running in the palms. Let this moment stretch. In the next room, someone's voice rises and falls. A soft story meant for sleeping children. The window is open. Cool air finds my bare ankles. There is a fig tree above, hungry for starlight, its shadow bending across the floor. I imagine lying under it, not as a symbol but as a place to rest. Even the goats are quiet now, their breathing a slow, steady background to the night. Even this silence is holy. I dip the rim of my bowl in water, then set it back. The fire ticks and pops. The writing board still waits, but my hands remain still. I trace the lines of grain in the wood with my thumb, lost in the ordinary texture, soft ridges, a faint scent of olive oil rubbed in from meals before. No one knows what lives inside these simple acts. Let the darkness gather at its own pace. A neighbor's sandals pass along the path outside, the rhythm so familiar it hardly breaks my thoughts. They cough, then move on. Somewhere a mother is humming. I listen without trying to understand. The old cloth, creased and faded, brings a comfort I do not name. I remember folding it for the first time, long before the stories, before I knew I would learn anything at all. The night listens with you. Judges sat beneath trees for counsel. I pass those trees sometimes on errands to market, arms full of barley. Their leaves shimmer at noon, dull at dusk. Sometimes I imagine a woman sitting there, her voice lost to the wind. Her wisdom, perhaps, was what she did not say. I think of my own day, the carrying, the wiping, the waiting. I wrote nothing down, but the stillness held every unspoken word. You don't need to fill every moment. Soon I'll fold the cloth for the last time tonight and place it by the door. The embers will fade. I'll close the shutter against the growing chill. My body will sleep. The word, whatever it is, will live quietly in the dust, in the grain, in the soft paper edge of my longing. Let this quiet hold you. Some nights are just for listening. Tonight I need nothing to be said. My heart feels full in a way I cannot give a name. I watch the room grow darker, gentle as falling cloth, just watching, just here. The fire breathes out one last orange sigh. The day falls away and I fold myself back into the quiet, beside the word which does not need to be spoken to be kept. The courtyard is warm just before midday, not too hot, but past the hour when water sweats on the jar. When I rise, never too quickly so the sun doesn't spin, I listen to the way grain settles in the sack. The sound is barely a sound, less than a whisper, more like the hush of a hand brushing stone. Only the olive tree notices. I spend these days in the in-between spaces, between the well and the market, between talk and silence, just carrying things. Lentils, cloth, the smell of dust. Sometimes I kneel to fix the laces of my sandals, not as a prayer, not really, but my knees find the earth anyway. The fig trees offer their shade regardless. There are others who make the walk toward the palms. They pass, slow and quiet, always looking at their feet. I have seen them watch Deborah from a distance, the way you might watch a river, careful not to step in, but grateful it is there. I do not go that far. I fold fabric on a stoop and let a thread catch the light. My hands remember the weaving even when my mind drifts. The thread crosses itself over and over like a silent blessing no one hears. Let this moment stretch. When it is quiet enough, I hear someone speak, a faint voice, carried like bread from one house to the next. I never catch the words. It must be easy, I think, when you are important to believe every word matters. I am not. I hum to myself sometimes. It is not a song. It is not a prayer. It is just the sound of being awake and here. Later I carry water past the palm, her palm, they say, Deborah's. But I only notice the way the fronds move when the wind is shy. I set the jar down, lower myself gently, fingers brushing the ground for balance. My back rests against the rough trunk and my eyes find the patchwork sky. Someone is talking not far away, voices tangled like vines. They are in need, maybe, or they just want to be seen. I do not hear the answers. I just let my knees settle, smooth my skirt, and breathe quietly. Here, kneeling is quieter than words. It means I am small but sound, present but not needed. It is a posture, not a plea. No one sees. Even this silence is holy. Goats wander in by afternoon, sniffing at the faded blossoms in my basket. Their hooves crack the quiet, but nothing is startled. I shoo them away, not sternly, not too soft. I know the feeling of wandering close to something sacred, pretending not to notice. My neighbor's dog barks from behind a gate. I pause to watch the dust shift where they've walked. When the shadows lean long, I kneel again, this time, next to a row of beams, searching for the ones that will cook through quickest. My knees find home without thinking. This kneeling is just habit. No one pays attention. When I stand, a crease in my tunic reminds me I was folded for a time. I am grateful to be upright, too. The night listens with you, someone calls from inside. A name, not mine, but it is enough to rise. I move slowly, plates in my hands, careful not to clatter anything sacred. There is nothing in these hours that could not wait a little longer. I rub a stubborn crumb from the table. I wipe my palms on the hem of my skirt. Outside, a fig drops. No one sees. We sit close together at dusk. The oil lamp sighs as it lights. Bread tears softly as if it knows the day is done. There is murmuring, barely conversation. We all listen for something maybe, but no one expects it. My knees stay drawn to my chest, folded as if I might stand or kneel again at any moment, but I don't. I stay small and quiet. Once someone asked why I sit this way, elbows on knees, eyes on the ground. I just shrugged. I don't think I'm hiding, I said. It just feels simple. Like the world is not waiting for me to do anything at all. Like I could be praying or not. Like breathing might be enough. Let this moment be gentle. By the window, I notice the way the wind traces the edge of the wall. There is a handful of lentils on the sill, small, round, ordinary. I line them up by color, then by size, then I brush them all together again. I think of all the things that pass between my hands: fabric, beans, water, quiet. I wonder if God can feel ordinary things. If He is in the nailing, even when it is only posture, even when no one is watching. The world slows, pressed into the shape of my mourning. There are no lessons here. No one speaks loud enough for the sky to answer. The night just gathers itself outside the door, soft and whole. I finish my tasks as the last light falls. There are no songs. There are no tears. Just a chair and the way my knees remember the earth long after I've stood. Let even this stillness be enough, for tonight everything is noticed, and no one asks why. Night falls, and the small square of my room feels softer, as if the air is folding itself around me. I move slow, as everyone does after long hours keeping company with dust and simple work. The sandals come off first, left by the wall. Then my knees creak as I bend to gather the linens, one for tomorrow, the rest smoothed as a nest for tonight. It is nothing new, but tonight the quiet feels heavier, or maybe more kind. The lamp burns low, a little circle of light. I watch shadows lengthen at the corners, and somewhere outside a goat coughs once, then settles. Some nights my mind circles old worries, but tonight there's just the hush, a cool hand of sleep pressed over every fret. I set by the window a bowl for crumbs. Soft dust gathers on the sill. My neighbor's child has drawn a mark in it, a swirl with her fingertip, yesterday or days ago, still there. I smooth the mark, not to erase it, but just to feel how patient the dust can be. On my mat, I straighten the cloth. I lie back and fold my hands on my chest, slow as the moon rising, slow as breath. The stillness asks nothing, so I whisper toward the ceiling, hold what I cannot hold. Let sleep come without fear. Let what is broken rest tonight, it is enough.